What's up, everybody? Lennon here with soundandpatternsmusic.com. Today we're interviewing the lovely Carol K. You're going to want to stick around for this one. Hey everybody, Lennon Bone here with soundandpatternsmusic.com. It means so much that you're here. If this is your first time, welcome. This channel exists to help you make better music and to make that music your business. This is my first YouTube collaboration and I'm super excited. I sat down on the phone with Carol K, an awesome YouTuber who has just over 12,000 subscribers. She does amazing covers and original tunes, and we talked about her process, sort of broke down some of the things that she thinks about business-wise, some podcasts that she's into, things like that. This video was shot actually a couple weeks ago when I was in St. Louis for my grandmother's heart surgery, so I was literally hanging out in a hotel to do this interview, so forgive me that the visuals are a little disheveled and the lighting isn't the best. Please, if you dig this style of content, I hope to do more of these sort of interview type things, then please consider subscribing. Leave me a comment below. Let me know who you think would be good for me to collaborate with, who you'd like to hear from or talk about their business, maybe analyze some of their processes. I'd love to hear that from you. And at any rate, let's just get straight to it and enjoy this interview with the awesome Carol K. Well, Carol, thanks so much for being here. Man, it means a lot. You're the first interview I've done, so thanks for bearing with me on trying to get some shit together and make it work for both of us. It means a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all the questions you sent and the ideas that you had for this interview is pretty much everything that I do on a daily basis, and a lot of it really excites me, and a lot of it has made me struggle, and so just being able to talk about it today in the perspective of someone who's kind of struggled and is on the way to, finally figuring things out, I feel good about talking about it,
So let's just get started. Where can you tell me a little bit about you and how you got into music and sort of where you started?
Yeah, so I grew up in a environment where pretty much my family is just, it's like a big fat Greek wedding type of situation, right? We're of Middle Eastern descent, and so family is a very big component to my upbringing. And my dad is a musician and kind of just brought music into the house, and that was the one thing that got everybody in the same room and just very high spirits and everything. So kind of just grew up with my dad being the entertainer of the family, and still is to this day. And just he got me into romanticizing the idea of being a musician, and I've always been interested in it. And so I began composing in high school, and then I started to find that I was developing some kind of a love affair with composition, and so I just kept going. Found myself getting more deeply entrenched in the educational part of it. Felt like I just wanted to learn everything I possibly could about music itself, so I went to college for it, and then I did a master's degree in composition, and then after there I just continued doing it and trying to find my way ultimately to where I am today. But yeah, I've been doing music pretty much for as long as I can remember. It's always been my number one.
That's awesome. Yeah, my dad's also a huge influence on me. He's a bass player, and so I can totally relate to that, just having somebody that you kind of look up to that sort of sets the tone a little bit. And then, I don't know, for me personally, there's also a little bit of friendly rivalry of I want to do a little better than my pops did. I want to make him proud,
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And then how did you get into YouTube, and what kind of got you started as using that platform for your music?
So I've actually been posting videos on YouTube since 2007. That's when I opened my account. But the videos that I started posting were just the most random photo slideshow videos with the background music of me having recorded on the cheapest mic you could imagine, hooked up to the laptop, a Windows laptop that I found in the house, and singing on top of a karaoke version of this whatever favorite song I was singing, right? And so I was too camera shy, so I wouldn't do a video, and I would just put that audio on top of slideshows. And at the time, it kind of worked. And I guess I titled the videos pretty well. Like in the beginning, I did a cover of Elton John's Tiny Dancer, like back in 2007, but I titled the video Tiny Dancer Sung by a Girl with an exclamation mark, and I ended up getting a lot of views on that stupid video that I wasn't even in, and I never even finished the entire song, so people just like subscribed to me from there, but I was never consistent. I would post once in a blue moon, and it would be the most inconsistent relationship that I ever had, and it basically just started to go weekly when I made a decision last year around this time to just be like, okay, that's it. I'm gonna buckle down on YouTube because I just really believe in the platform, and I've always loved making covers of my favorite songs, and so everything just started to connect, and didn't really know where it was gonna go, but I just knew that out of everything I've done musically, that was the thing that I most enjoyed doing. So I figured I would just run with it, like screw it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's interesting that we're in such a time where you can do that. You can do the thing that you would kind of probably, I mean, if you're like me, you would probably be doing something similar to this anyway, but now that we have a platform that we're able to talk to people and, reach people in a way that we never could, I think it's a pretty incredible thing. And do you feel like, because you talked about how you started doing consistent, you said last year?
Okay, so this point last year, I wanted to make myself accountable for finishing my ideas, because that was one thing that I never felt responsible, I guess personally, like accountable for. I would, just like, whoever's paying me to do a job, that's what I'm going to be responsible for. So I was like, enough of that. I need to like work on my own projects. So I just kind of buckled down and I said, do this for you, because I want to prove to myself that I can finish a project. So my goal for myself was just finish a song every week, once a week, and then I'll be happy. And then whatever you do with that, I don't care. But if you're doing that, then I'll be happy. You know what I mean? So I just like kind of, so that's how I started. And it was a very serious commitment that I made to myself. Because if I failed that, I would have really failed myself, and I would have been extremely upset and like disappointed, so, and I didn't want to go down that path. So that's when I really buckled down. I was just like, that's it, this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I just love though that consistent posting for you is not as much about like gaining more followers as it is about being true to yourself and making sure that you're growing as an artist and a songwriter and a musician, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like this is never, I love the people that follow me. I couldn't love them anymore, because like I'm even to a point, I'm always surprised that anyone even cares, but it's not about them at all. I have to do this for me. Otherwise I'm going to live my life as an extremely unhappy person.
Yeah. I totally get that. And do you feel that consistent posting, in order to like, for the people that are kind of thinking about trying to build a following, like, do you feel that helps, or is it kind of 6 one way, half a dozen the other?
Yeah, I mean, like, the intention to strive to build a following is always there. As a musician, the goal is always, how can I get my music to more people? Like, that's a given. It's not wrong to feel that way. But if that's like, if you're doing it for other reasons, like I want to get rich or do this and that, like it's not sustainable, because like years go by, you get older, like if there aren't bigger reasons behind it, you end up just flopping on it and feeling less interested over time, and so it's just not a sustainable plan. So I think the intention of building a following is very important, but like you said, it is very much a 50-50 type of deal. Like you want to build the following, but at the same time you're also very much in need of satisfying a deeper personal goal that you can't really communicate with anybody else other than yourself.
Yeah. And could you tell me a little bit about what point did you start incorporating Instagram, and have you seen that drive traffic to your YouTube videos, and also like, what's sort of working for you with that platform as far as having them work together for you in this sort of zone?
So I love Instagram for what it's done to me. It's kind of trained me to understand how important the platform is in terms of how to be visually appealing, right? So it's a photo platform for like truthfully in its most natural state. Instagram is for photos, you know, and videos came after. So to honor the platform as a photo platform really allowed me to change the gears in my brain and find a way to mold my content to fit on Instagram as people who are on Instagram are expecting to see content. So like I became a photographer because of Instagram, because now I had to start thinking like a photographer and making my feed look visually appealing and like beautiful for enough for people to want to take an interest in me. Otherwise, if it you know didn't follow the guidelines, I guess the unwritten guidelines of what Instagram is, people just they'll follow somebody else. You know what I mean? So you kind of just got to play the game a little bit. And so I was happy to do so because it allowed me to learn a lot about the platform, and it has helped a lot in terms of connecting things together. But like I said, you know, Instagram as its own platform is a beast on its own. And anytime you're trying to kick people off of it and go to YouTube or go somewhere else, you're always going to fight with the platform a little bit, and that's the trade-off. But I still do it, and I don't think I'm going to stop doing it, because like my pillar content will be YouTube for the next foreseeable future, and I want to keep it that way. But I will play the Instagram game for as long as it takes. But slowly but surely, like you build trust with followers with nice looking content and like consistent content, nice copy, and all that stuff. And sooner or later, yeah, they will go to your link, right? But not right away. It's not a very high success rate from the beginning, you know?
Yeah. Well, and for everybody that's watching and listening to this, Carol also has a really beautiful photography Instagram account where you've just done photography, right? So
yeah.
Everybody should definitely check that out. It's super cool. Lots of really, I mean, I was really impressed. I was like, dang, if you're starting photography, especially as a musician, where it's like now a byproduct of just trying to get more stuff out there.
Yeah.
You've done a great job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Super cool. Yeah. So then that kind of answered my next question. You are seeing the entity, like each social media network, as sort of separate things, but just trying to figure out ways to utilize them on their own.
Yeah.
On their own playing field.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like I never started that way, and because I started in the opposite direction, like I'm just gonna recycle as much as I can and then post, and from Instagram, and then hit the post to Facebook button and have it share to Facebook automatically. I was doing all of that stuff, you know, like trying to maximize or minimize the time spent in posting everywhere, right? But I found that you got to speak to people in the language that of the country that you're in, you know? And so just think of like the platform as its own country, and you got to speak that language. It's just, I don't think there's any way around it. I really tried, and it would be beautiful if there was a way around it, but I don't think there is. So I write different copy for Instagram than I do on Facebook, and I make different video edits for Facebook than I do on Instagram, and of course on YouTube, right? So yeah, all of that. Like just imagine this, like how tacky would it be if you're on Instagram and you're scrolling through your feed and somebody's posting a teaser video for their YouTube video, and in the beginning it says, "Hey YouTube, what's up?" You know, like, but you're on Instagram. It's like, what? Who are you talking to? You know, I'm not on YouTube right now, so yeah.
And I always feel like, even as I'm just starting sort of my journey into digging deep into the social media stuff, I've always thought like it's worth putting the extra effort in, even if it means in the beginning, as I'm figuring out how to time manage, if it means that I'm not as consistent as I want to be in the beginning, I still think that's fine, in order to make sure I'm treating everything appropriately.
Yeah, for sure. But also, like, just continuing to do it over time, even if sometimes you can't make your deadlines, like, to not be beating yourself up too much for it, but just to understand how much you learn with every single video that you post. And so the moral of the story is more videos, more time spent learning, and more time and like a faster approach to becoming like super good, super fast at doing this stuff. And so that's ultimately how you end up with getting more videos out in a week than when you started, right? So everything's always hard and it takes forever in the beginning. But with more practice, you just get faster and it becomes a breeze, and you just finally start to enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, totally. Could you tell just a couple little quick, like, where do you feel like when you're monetizing your stuff, be it online or live shows or whatever, where do you feel like you're able to really increase the revenue of your business the most, and how have you kind of grown those things?
So this is one thing that I have struggled on end with. You know, this has always been a very difficult place for me to figure out how the hell am I supposed to make this sustainable. And it's because I feel like for everywhere I searched hours and hours and hours, scoured the internet, how to do this. And the niche is music, right? So I don't feel like anybody in music is talking about this. So this is one of the questions I was so happy to see that you had for me, because like, to talk about this is literally to unveil the biggest mystery that I don't think anybody has like allowed musicians to know about. Because you'll hear about educators making money off courses and doing tutorials and all that stuff, but like, what if you don't want to do tutorials? How are you supposed to make money as an entertainer? And so, not to say that I fully have figured it out, but right now Patreon is my biggest contributor. Even at like a very small amount of patrons, the people that are on there are very generous, and they're really helping steer the content. And but aside from that, I've got the Amazon affiliate links, and let's see what else here. I made a list of all this stuff. It's like, so it's Patreon, and then there's the signed albums that I sell. And then I also sell my stems for like, because I have a big following of people who actually make music. So I found that figuring out who your audience is and making something for them is the best way to do it. So I sell stems to my productions, and that has been going pretty well. I've also got like royalties from sync placements, but that's not technically from a YouTube thing, but everything kind of connects to each other. And at this point, I think like I've got 6 different streams of income coming from the music, and I have plans to bump it up to 11. So it's like as many streams as you can figure out, that's ultimately the best way to do it. But I think in music, it's not going to happen with one stream.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think unfortunately, most arts industries are kind of that way. We just have to figure out. And I think the trouble that most of us have is we feel like this little filthy thing in us in the beginning, because we're sort of, I don't know, it's like we've always been talked down that the arts or music or something like that is not an actual viable source of income. It's not an actual job, because it's kind of, we're having fun doing it, you know? So it can be tough to like treat ourselves like a business, I think.
Yeah, I know it's kind of annoying the way that was a notion that's kind of was shoved down my throat as well, you know, as a musician that was coming up, and also as a musician who didn't do very many live shows, and like don't currently do very many live shows, but I'm very much focused on the online stuff. So after just really thinking about it, there's about 1 billion ways you can make money online. It's crazy. It's like, it's just, yeah, there's just so many different ways. And if you know who your audience is, that's just even more ways to find out what they would want, and I guess predict what they would want, and then pitch it to them. And if people love you and your content, they're going to want to buy things from you because they want it, it's coming from you, you know? So I found that to be very valuable, perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's something I think about a lot, that the music is actually sort of just a calling card to us as the individuals, right? The more that, especially in the online realm, they just want to know more about us, in addition to how we're creating, what we're creating, and why. I think those are such valuable, what you said is spot on.
Yeah, and also the thing that you mentioned too is that to kind of think of yourself as a business, that was the one biggest shift that I made this year that changed everything for me. And I received, like, over the course of the year, I've been posting consistently and stuff, and kind of just, I guess, taken notice of other labels and indie labels and stuff like that. For the first time ever in my life, they were actually emailing me and contacting me and offering me deals. And now, and then I was like, I'm not interested actually, because I don't need you to be my business manager. Like I'm the business here. I'm the product. I can figure out how to run this thing as its own business entity and just, operate it as a business. And I feel like I'm fully capable of doing that. So you don't need a label. I just feel like I'm very, very confident that nobody needs a label anymore. So
yeah, no, I totally agree. Talking about a business, do you have any like business books? They don't have to be for musicians specifically, but any business books or podcasts that you follow or listen to often that have kind of helped you in broadening your revenue streams?
Yeah, so one thing probably not many of my followers know about me is that I'm like a self-development obsessed type of person. So when anytime I'm in the car, I'm listening to audiobooks, and anytime I'm at home, I'm watching YouTube videos on how to figure out how to navigate this world. And, so I have pretty much read like several books this year that I would highly recommend, but a lot of them are, yes, business related, but I would say before you even consider reading business books, read a few self-development staples first, because like a lot of the work that helped me the most was me asking myself important questions as to why I'm doing this, what I want to do, and like the goals that I have in mind, and like really going through the process of like physically writing it down, like asking yourself a question and writing down the thoughts that come to your mind and picking apart your brain as much as you possibly can to come to a conclusion that allows you to figure out what that next step would be, so that when you read that business book, you can process it in a more productive way. So it's the best thing you could ever do is just like find a way to figure yourself out as much as you possibly can first, and then like, apply those business strategies to it, because that's the most valuable, way to go about it, I think.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've been on that whole self-development, like personal introspective kind of thing for the past 6 or 8 months. And I can't explain how much it's helped me be able to have a much clearer vision of what I'm trying to do. And like you said, just things that I knew already, it's like, oh, this makes so much more sense on how I can implement this into my business and into my life, or, and that carries on into friendships and family, and I mean, so many other things. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And like, I think the best advice I can give in terms of like which books to read first, I would say, I'm going to look them up because I want to make sure that I'm recommending the best ones. But if we're talking to musicians here, I'm going to assume that listening is a better way to digest information, because, we're trained to hear music in a different way, in a more critical way. And I think listening to books is a better way to retain the information. I'm assuming. But okay, so the book I like, just like, oh my God, I swear to God, I'll tell you, I listened to this book in the car, right? There's been so many times where I'm just listening to it. It's so good that I have to pause it and just scream in the car, like, holy shit, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, that's a book that you need to read. So the book that I'm talking about is called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's by Stephen Covey, or Covey. I don't know how to say it, but this book is incredible. Like, it'll get you realizing things that you just haven't been able to put into words, things that are so obvious, And like, I feel like the best aha moments are like, that was so obvious, how did I not see that? That's so simple, and that makes so much sense. His whole book is that. The one that I'm reading right now, which I haven't finished, like I'm only in like the first hour of it, it's called 7 Decisions, and it's basically this guy who just really struggled his entire life. He was left homeless, his parents both died, he was stranded, like went through a really difficult upbringing, and spent his life in the library with a free library card and read thousands of biographies of the most successful people in the world. And like, can you imagine how many hours this guy devoted his life to reading all of these biographies and pretty much learned how to live through other successful people? And he took all of the areas of Maslow's pyramid and kind of just took patterns of all these people and condensed them to one ultimate way of life, to have the ultimate like happy success life, and he wrote a book from this from his findings. And so just in the first hour, he asks you to kind of listen actively and like listen and do the exercises at the same time. So I normally am like, I scoff at that and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like it. I'm in the car, I'm not going to pause, whatever, right? But this time I was on an airplane, and so I'm like, I have no excuse. I'm going to do this, you know? So I did the one exercise that he talks about, and I ended up with a manifesto of my life, you know?
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, so it's just like, if you're willing to put in the work of these books and not just listen to it, it would pay you back in dividends in terms of what it'll actually do for you.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I did 4-Hour Work Week, the Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. And he had some interesting stuff in there, and then one of those was to like, one of his assignments, quote unquote assignments, was to hire a virtual personal assistant because you can do it a lot cheaper. And I was very nervous about that, but I actually did it, and it made a huge difference because I had them do actually a lot of the things that I've been afraid to do, like sending a bunch of my material to publishing companies overseas and a bunch of that kind of stuff that maybe I don't even have time for like I want to. And I've actually been getting responses from them, and it's like, I mean, these things can actually pay off tenfold, like you said, when you put the time in to execute.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool that ended up working out for you. The one thing that I've been like, I've had on my to-do list for the longest time was like, send music to publishing companies, and it's just the worst because I'm like, oh, here we go, another like 1,000 emails I have to send, and I have to figure out, it's just it's so boring, you know?
Oh, it sucks, yeah. But that's the cool thing too, is that when having somebody else do it, it almost got rid of my anxiety of even the rejection idea, because I'm not having to think about sending every single email. He's just doing it for me, you know?
Oh, that's great. That's a great piece of advice. I'll definitely consider doing that.
I can hook you up with like a discount code too. I think we'd both get some sort of discount if you did it through that website, but yeah. And then lastly, do you have any big picture advice for someone who's wanting to get started making music for an online audience?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, the first thing that you wanna do is find out the area of your musical career that you expected to be better at this point in time but isn't, and try to understand why it isn't and what you did to not make it happen, and then find like the root of that problem, and then make one actionable project for yourself, make yourself accountable, and post it online. The beauty of posting things online is that, yes, you are accountable for meeting that deadline if you make this arrangement with yourself, but by posting it online, you make it, you open it up to other people, which really compounds on the accountability factor, because now other people are watching. And if they like your stuff, they're going to subscribe to you, and then they become interested in what you'll do next. And if you don't meet those deadlines, then you really miss out on that opportunity to capitalize on increasing your traffic and stuff like that, you know? So the best piece of advice is, I would say, just do one actionable project and try your very best to stick to it, and post it, and just post it online, you know, do a song a week or something like that. That's where I started. So
yeah, I love that. And that's earlier this year I tried to do a little thing, and I did it for a while, and it's funny how sometimes we actually do something that's working, and then for some reason we decide to kind of stop doing those things. But I was doing a thing called 15-minute momentum, where I would just try to write something or do something on like an OP1 or something in 15 minutes and then post it to Instagram, whatever the result was. again, is that exercise of just like putting something out so you can get sometimes past the fear of just making something public. Because like you said, I think finishing things for artists and songwriters and musicians can be really difficult sometimes because we're trying to meet our taste, right? And so when we're not able to hit that mark, sometimes we're afraid that just because we're beating ourselves up, somebody else is gonna also be like, this sucks or whatever, you know?
Exactly. And there's been so many times in this whole journey of posting stuff online, I have to meet this deadline and so where I'm just like, oh man, but the song isn't finished. I can't post it yet. I need more time. I literally feel that way every single week. And I'm just like, now I'm just like, I'm tired of caring. I'm done caring. I'm just gonna post it. If it's not good, I have next week to make it better.
Right.
That's it. That's the end of the story. And I would now I changed my mentality of I would rather produce more music, more shitty music to get to exceptionally better music than spend a whole year producing something mediocre. And that one mediocre thing is one compared to 1,000. You know what I mean? So the truth of the matter is that quantity always creates quality for artists. So the more you produce, the better you get, and that's it. There's like a culture in music where you work all year to produce this album and you release it and you put all your eggs in that album basket, and when it flops, you're depressed for a year. I know what that feels like. I did that. And so I'm tired of that. That's not the way the world turns anymore. You got to keep pumping out stuff, and the amazing thing about pumping out a ton of stuff is that you actually end up getting so good. So I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, and that was probably the best business book I would have recommended. I follow him, and basically his whole mentality is that, like, what else are you doing in that hour? You know? Like, what else are you doing? So
I love his stuff too. He's a huge influence on just kind of probably on a ton of people on just trying to get started doing things. But I think too about guys like Bob Dylan who were so prolific, but we're only going to remember the songs that meant the most to us, you know, and that's really what it's all about anyway, right? Is finding something that resonates with somebody, and that's going to be different from someone else, and that's great.
Exactly.
Everybody watching and listening, you can check out Carol's stuff. She has some beautiful original stuff as well as some incredible covers. I was really liking Kiss Me to the Moon. I thought that was a really beautiful tune.
Oh, thank you.
Tell everybody where they can find you on the socials.
So you can find me at Carol K Music on Instagram or on YouTube. Sure, there'll be a link down below, but you can also find me on Facebook at Carol K Music too.
Cool. And then how is it being sharing a name minus an E with a famous Motown bass player? It's
funny because I actually get a lot of messages from baby boomers and stuff, like the older folks. They're like, oh, we loved your bass playing on the Beach Boys album. And I'm just like, have you seen the photo? Like, I can't possibly be the same person. Like, how are you confused right now? So you wouldn't believe how many messages of that I get, and it's hilarious. So that, I'm just trying to outrank her on Google. Sorry if you're watching, but
It might take a little bit, but she's actually done pretty well at her online presence.
Oh, I know. She's amazing.
Thank you so much again for doing this. It means the world to me for you to be the first person that I've got to do an interview with, and such valuable information here, I think, for not only me, but a ton of people. Hopefully they get to hear this.
Yeah, I really appreciate being on, and like, I could literally talk about this stuff for like another 10 hours, which is, just kind of proves how deeply you need to be entrenched in it. Otherwise, this stuff could really eat away at your soul. You just gotta like find a way to love it, and that's the only way you can get by, I think.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. I hope you dug that as much as I enjoyed talking to her. Carol, thank you so much for doing this. It really means a lot that you were my first interview, and I just can't say thanks enough for being so awesome. Keep putting out amazing work. Please, everybody go subscribe to Carol's stuff. And it just means so much that a little channel like mine would get to talk to somebody that's so willing to share such amazing information with you all. I hope you all got something from it. Again, consider subscribing if you'd like to, and I'll see you guys in the next video.